Hi, I am Jen Wilson, the Healing Rebel, and welcome to this week's podcast. So if you're brand new here, welcome. If you are a returning visitor, thank you very much for rejoining me. Remember, if you haven't already liked, subscribed, followed, depending on what platform that you are watching or listening, one, it helps me and helps the podcast grow, but two, it also makes sure that you do not miss any new episodes or any other content. If you're on YouTube particularly, any other new content that I put out, so I sometimes put out little mobility sessions or short exercise sessions to help with specific conditions. And if you have any requests, then please do drop me a message and get them in. So this week, what has been happening? I think I had a grumble last week about the whole car situation, and I might have mentioned the factor situation. Well, the car situation is now resolved. The factor situation is still undergoing, but I've generally just ignored it. The other thing that happened for me was I had a change in my medication, as in it was the same medication but it was a different brand. The NHS had sent a letter out back in November to say that we were being moved from one brand to another purely based on financial reasons, because the drug that I was on was more expensive than this new brand. So what happens with any medication is when the medication first gets developed, it has a patent or a patent, not sure how you pronounce that. Everybody seems to pronounce it differently. And that lasts for 10 years, and then after 10 years, any other drug company can start to make the same thing using basically the same formula, but they might change some of the preserving ingredients. And what has happened is this new one has come onto the market, and it was cheaper, probably different. Well, the fact that I took a reaction to this drug that I hadn't taken a reaction to the previous one says that there was an ingredient in it that my body is not happy with. So took the medication on the Wednesday. I had an appointment with the consultant on the Thursday. When I got to the hospital, it wasn't the consultant I saw, it was a different doctor. Not really sure who or what she was. She was perfectly lovely, but she didn't explain who she was. She just said she was a doctor working alongside the consultant. Which that threw me. And when you're already in a heightened state of stress from everything that's going on in life, plus you've got a hospital appointment, plus you're going to talk about your health, plus I've taken this medication the day before and I'm having a reaction to it, things are not okay. I'm still in this post-viral grumbling of virus I had at the start of the year, triggered stuff in my gut, that's still kind of underlying and grumbling as well. All of this mixed in with I'm not seeing the person that I thought I was coming to see totally threw me. And in the appointment, in my head I kept thinking, I'm going to go and see my consultant in a minute. Oh, I'm going to see my consultant in a minute. And I was responding to her questions, and we were discussing my results. I was explaining what was going on in this, and then all of a sudden the appointment was over, and I'm thinking, oh, so I'm not seeing my consultant today, and I'm on my way out to the hospital. I spoke to my friend who is a former IBD nurse, and she said to me, because I was like, what, why could I not? And then I'm annoyed with myself because I didn't speak up and I didn't ask the question. And she's like, but you were in a heightened state, you were already overstimulated, your brain doesn't function in the same way. And this is stuff I know, because this is stuff I tell other people, but when you're in that spiral, it's hard to get a grasp of it. So she gave me really good advice, like email your IBD nurse, explain what happened, explain what's going on, and blah blah blah. So anyway, I messaged my IBD nurse, and she had emailed back to say that they're moving me back onto the original medication, which in hindsight I should have pushed back when I first got the letter, because I have a history of taking reactions to medications. But anyway, so I'm now in this kind of low level grumbling, there's inflammation there, but it's not enough that the hospital are going to do anything about it, which this is another issue that I have, not with the individuals that are in the system, but with the system. When I was looking at my results over the last 18 months, each time I've had a test done, the inflammation has gone up slightly more. And in my head, and they're saying to me, your inflammation is 190, we're not worried about that. Once it's over 200 or 220, then that's when we start to get a bit more concerned. So in my head, I'm thinking like, so when that went up to 60, that's the chip pan's gone on fire. Then it went up to 90 something, that's the kitchen's on fire. then it's gone up to 190 something. The whole ground floor is now on fire, but we're going to wait until the entire house is on fire before we phone the fire brigade. To me, that doesn't make sense. To me, that's very much we're going to deal with the acute situation rather than try and deal with the chronic situation. Now, this is just structurally how the NHS is built. This is not any individual's fault. This is not a problem, but this is where the work that I do comes in. What are you doing to look after yourself, to be able to help yourself before the whole house catches on fire? How are you going to get the smoke blanket out to dampen that inflammation down? I'm already doing all the things that I think are right, but have some things slipped. So I'm living in this constant anxiety, stress, anger with outside people, things that are outside of my control. I'm avoiding dealing with the things that are within my control in these situations. Was my diet on point? Is there anything else that I could add in that maybe help? So because I know that the inflammation's coming up, can I bring more cooling things in? So things like aloe vera. It will work for some people, it won't work for others, so I'm trying it. I used to take aloe vera all the time, and then because things were good, it started to slip away because it's expensive to buy these things. But because the fire started to grumble, right, okay, we need to put the fire, we need to dampen this down before it becomes a full house fire. Tweaking my diet. You know, there was a bit more crisps slipping in, there was a little bit more going out for food rather than making things from scratch. When you make things from scratch, you know exactly what's going in. When you're eating out, there's cheap vegetable oils in your food, and I know, because I talk about it, that these cheap vegetable oils are inflammatory for people with IBD, potentially for other people, but there is research there to show that seed oils, your sunflower, your vegetable oil, canola oil, rapeseed oil, these corn oil, these oils are inflammatory for people with IBD. So I'll just get a takeaway. Now I get a takeaway from a restaurant, so they're using slightly better quality, but that doesn't mean that they're not using these vegetable oils. And then I was probably exposing myself to a little bit too much. It was back to cooking everything by myself, cut the crisps out for a little while till everything comes back down again, get out of that habit of just, I'll just have some crisps because that's tasty and that's nice. And I've spoken about this before, I don't eat just a bag of crisps, I eat 150 gram bag of crisps. There is big overload in my system. So having that reflection, stepping back, reviewing honestly about what it is that you're actually doing, what it is that's actually going on, and then how do I tweak that? How do I make this better for myself? Now, I don't know if you've watched this yet, but it's not a documentary, it's a TV show, it's a dramatisation of a true story. It's on Netflix and it's called Apple Cider Vinegar. Now, when I started watching this, I was like, this could be really good, but what's the angle that they're going to take here? And it's, I believe that the women that are set in Australia, and there's a girl who's diagnosed with cancer. The hospital are telling her she's going to have to get her arm amputated. She doesn't want to go down that route, she wants to go down alternative routes. And then there's this other girl who is a liar and an absolute psychopath, and starts to watch the attention that this first girl's getting when she goes on this healing journey. And the start of her healing journey is she goes and does these extreme diets and goes into remission. But then, don't want to spoiler alert, but it was a true story, so you may already be aware of it. But then her cancer comes back, and this other girl is following her story, copying lots of it, but saying that she has brain cancer and she's living really well, and they're creating these recipe books and going and doing public talks and making all this money off the back of it. And the thing that really struck with me, and I'm not going to tell you how it all turned out. You can watch it if you are intrigued by this. But the thing that really struck me was a big challenge in the work that I do is There are people out there who are snake oil salespeople that are scam artists. There are also people who have been on a journey and this journey has worked really well for them, so then they want everybody else to follow the exact same path as they do. And whether you're selling the snake oil or whether you're telling people that this is what I did and you must follow this to the letter because it will work for you, because it worked for me, I find these approaches dangerous. I find them harmful to society, and I know people in the industry that are like this. They're like, you've just got to do X, Y, Z and then you will be better. And I'm sitting there thinking, but I've done X, Y and Z and I still have issues. These things are still recurring in my body, and that's why when I'm working with people, when I'm sharing things that I do, I am always with the, you need to listen to your body, you need to see if this is working for you, and if it's not, you stop. And I'll never give somebody my exact diet or say follow this diet plan, because everybody's microbiome's different, everybody's genetic makeup's different. I had this conversation actually with somebody recently. I was on one of the Catherine Kuhn wellness walks, and somebody had said, oh, my daughter's really struggling with fatigue. And I said, look, I did a podcast on how I recovered from fatigue. Have a watch of that and see if any of that resonates, and see if she wants to try any of it to see if it works for her. I'm not promising it will, but have a wee look. And he watched it and he came back and he went, oh, that was brilliant, that was really useful, we'll have a wee look and see. And he said after he watched it, what came up as the recommended things to watch were people who were selling a shake that was going to cure IBD or a supplement that was going to cure IBD. And he's like, what do you think about them? And I was like, anything that tells you that it's going to cure something that is unlikely. It might be true for that person, it might be that they have followed this path, but everybody's IBD is different, and I don't know what your daughter's experiencing, so I'm not going to say, oh yeah, she could try it, it might help her, because I have no idea. And the person who's selling it has no idea. They're selling you a promise, and very often these things are super expensive. I have seen and followed people who I'm like, oh, I really like this part of their protocol, and then they're trying to sell you supplements on top of that, and it's costing $300 a month. And I'm thinking, no. And they're making promises from these supplements, and for me, they're far too expensive to even try. Like, I'm not gonna, and there are people who are so desperate and vulnerable that they will. And probably if I counted up what I spend in a month, it might be more than £300, but I'm buying individual things, seeing if they work, and if they don't, I'm dropping them, and then trying something else, and pick and choose. But you have to do the things that you feel drawn to, that you feel certain about, and not buying into somebody else's Hail Mary holy story. Be inspired by it by all means. Know that there is a better way. Have hope that things can be better, and you might be the person who gets cured by something. I might find something in the next year, 6 months, 2 years, 10 years that I go, oh my god, that thing helped me. I can't believe I didn't find that sooner. But that will be my journey. That's part of my journey to healing, and that the Healing Rebel is all about listening to your body. What do you need? What feels right for you? And then exploring that to see how it works for you. Does it work? Is it going to help? What is going on here? So if you are tempted by a promise of this miracle powder is going to be the thing, check first of all what are the ingredients. What is it they're actually selling you? Is it just a very overpriced protein shake? Is it a blend of herbs that you could actually probably try and put together yourself? There's a tea on the market that a guy with IBD is like, I've not had pain for the last 7 years because of this tea. I've made the tea because I happen to have all the herbs in my house. I made the tea, it tastes lovely. Has it changed any of my symptoms? No. Maybe I haven't taken it for long enough. Maybe I'm not taking it as often as maybe suggested, but I've been working with herbs for long enough to know that one batch of herbs is not the answer, and especially when it's male versus female. So males might be able to take a bunch of stuff and that work really well for them, and they can stay on that and it works forever. For females, because we have our 28-day cycle, because through our life that cycle changes. So who we are as a child coming into teenage years, when we hit puberty, then that puberty to menopause is completely different. Then from menopause onwards is completely different. So those different stages in our life, they are going to change how we react and respond to things, in addition to how we react and respond to things throughout the month. So for females, it's not as simple as just take this one thing and that'll be you forever, because our hormones fluctuate, our hormones change, and that changes how our body responds and the needs that we have. Really important that we tune in, tap into this, and really listen, start to listen. And this is something, conversation that I've had as well with clients, that we are not taught to listen to our bodies and honour and respect. We're told to sit down, shut up and do the job. We have to work the 40-hour weeks, we have to be in school from 9 to 4 or 9 to half 3 or whatever it is, Monday to Friday, regardless of our energy, regardless of where we're at. We're told to overrule and dampen down these signals that our bodies are giving us. And it's not working, because if it was working, we wouldn't all have shit going on. We wouldn't have skin breakouts, we wouldn't have digestive issues, we wouldn't have autoimmunity, we wouldn't have cancers, we wouldn't have all these problems. But we do have all these problems, so we can't keep pushing in the wrong direction. We need to start stepping back and listening in, what do we need as individuals, and how can we honour that as much as possible. If you would like help on that journey, please do reach out to me. It might be that a one-to-one, one-off conversation is what you need. It might be that you want to be part of one of my course programs. It might be that just listening to this podcast gives you the information, the inspiration, whatever it is that you need to be able to take action for yourself. So if you have got any questions, please do reach out on whichever platform that you're listening to. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, share, blah, blah, blah. And next week's podcast is with my lovely friend Leanne. And it will be a fasten your seatbelts. It is a fast conversation and a wonderful conversation, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. Have a fabulous day, and I will see you on the next podcast.